Now it's my privilege to introduce to you CWO, Hershel Williams, United States Marine Corps retired and Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. And our keynote speaker, would you come forward, sir?
Thank you very much. Thank all of you for that warm welcome. Good to be in Romney. Thank you for having me. As we flew in, I mentioned to my grandson, Brent Casey, who goes with me, and he's my gopher boy, that I didn't know there was as much to Romney as there is of Romney. So it's good to see. This is a day when all over America and many parts of the world we're recognizing those individuals living, but those who are not, who have given their lives, volunteered their services so we could be free Americans. The day that you and I were born. Now, I got here a little before you did. But the day that you and I were born, we inherited two of the greatest gifts that mankind can receive. And when I say mankind, I include all people. The first was the gift of life. If God hadn't given us life, we wouldn't exist. And certainly we couldn't achieve it on our own. And the second was the gift of freedom. When I drew my very first breath, that very first breath was freedom. That someone else had already paid for it, didn't cost me anything. There was no way I could buy it or earn it or anything else at that moment in my life. I received that freedom because others had already given their lives to make that possible. Two of the greatest gifts of mankind. This is not a new day in history as we think of it, but yet it is a new day for America. It's a new day when we're going to start a new era. And we really don't know what that era is going to be. One thing we do know, whatever that era is, it's going to be free. We still have the freedom someone else has given to us. 241 years ago, yesterday, a new breed in America was born. A breed that she had never had before. And that was the United States Marines. Since that time, almost 50,000 of those Marines have given their life so that we can continue to celebrate our birthday every year. That sacrifice, or those sacrifices, could have been any one of us. We have an all-volunteer military today. Something that probably most of us years ago would have thought absolutely impossible. To have the number of people that we have and have had in the past that would voluntarily take an oath, not only to protect us and to protect our freedom, but in effect said, you may take my life, but you cannot take my freedom. I dare say when we arose this morning, wherever we were, not a one of us had an ounce of fear that we would not be safe. And yet, we as society, and probably individualized, but we as society take for granted about 3 groups of people that exist every day, and they're there for us. First group I'll mention are the law enforcement officers of this country. Think what it would be in these communities around our nation if we did not have law enforcement people. I speak often to a state police or an academy that trains state police and law enforcement officers of all natures, whether they're foresters or whatever they are, deputy sheriffs and so on. And I tell those individuals every opportunity I have that they are under more stress every day of their life than I was when I was being shot at by the Japanese. Most of them don't agree with that. But when I was being shot at by the Japanese, I knew before I ever got there I was going to be shot at. That gave me an opportunity to prepare myself, not only conditionally and mentally, but bring into play my training, because I knew basically what was coming. But that individual who got up this morning, put on his uniform, went out and got in his cruiser, began patrolling our highways to keep us from breaking the law. I'm not guilty. But that individual had no way of knowing whether he was going to get back home that night or not. That's stress, folks. And yet we just take that for granted. And then get mad if he gives us a ticket. And the second group are the firefighters. You know, my house is on fire. I'm not going to call a neighbor. I'm going to call that fire department. Jokingly, a lady called the fire department. She was panicking, saying, "My house is on fire, my house is on fire. I need a fire department." And the guy answering said, "Well, how do I get there?" She said, "In that little red wagon, dummy." But another group of people that we just absolutely take for granted. The other group I want to mention are Gold Star families. Gold Star mothers around over the country have been reasonably, I use that advisedly, but reasonably well recognized. We know they have an organization. We know they exist. But the families, the aunts and the cousins and the uncles and the grandmas and the grandpas, they have never had any recognition. How many of you have ever heard the word or the name Gold Star Dad? Probably most of you have not. The Gold Star Dads are also involved when a loved one is lost. And we have sort of forgotten, along with all the other relatives who grieve because a loved one related to or related in that family. And I think this would fit almost any family. And it's called the Gold Star Family Lament. It would probably fit 99.9% of the people who have served in this one. My boy went off to war. He said he wanted to go. To give many others a freedom they don't know. He said, I was so fortunate to be born in the USA and to have all of the privileges that have come my way. I could tell he loved America and wanted to do what's right. He wanted to do his duty for a country and to fight. We all knew the danger, but prayed that he would be safe. Then we were notified that he had met his fate. Our hearts broke in many pieces, and our grief was very deep. He was willing to give, although it made us weep. We are so proud of what he did and the sacrifice that he gave. We pray that our country, by his efforts, will be saved. As we shed our tears of sorrow, we know he rests in peace, having given all these to help wars of violence cease. He would say to others, be brave, stand strong. We're all a part of America, right where we belong. He's standing guard in heaven with all of his buddies near. They sacrificed their lives so we could be safe here. Let us all remember what freedom really costs. Never to forget the loved ones that many of us lost. I was born on a dairy farm in Marion County. We lived about a mile from school. We had no bus service. We walked back and forth. We didn't have snow days either. Leonard Brown lived a half mile farther down the road or up the road or out the road. Leonard was 1 year ahead of me in school. But as he would come by my house, we would walk to school together. And we would walk home together. Leonard and I never fought. Now, I can't say that about Billy Corbin, because Billy Corbin and I fought a lot. But Leonard was very mild, sort of an individual, tall and skinny. I knew I couldn't whip him. His arms were too long. Go into the Marine Corps. I wanted Leonard to go with me. But Leonard wanted to go into the Army Air Corps because he loved airplanes. So Leonard went his way and I went mine. Our paths never crossed again. I never heard anything about Leonard, and I'm positive he never heard anything about me. But in 1944, Leonard was a nose gunner on a B-24, stationed in the Philippines, and an ACAT gun got him. Wounded him severely, and 4 days later, Leonard died. He was buried in the Philippines. Those days they buried him where they fell. Mom and Dad Brown knew, of course, by the telegram that he had died, but no other detail. That's all they knew. During World War II, we in America had a way that our homes could show that we had somebody in war. Or they could also show that someone in that home had sacrificed their life. We did that, and many of you will remember these perhaps. But we did that by putting a flag in our window little flag with a blue star on it. My mother had 3 of these hanging in her front window. That told the people going by my house that 3 of us are in the war. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, half a mile away, had 2. Clarence was in the Army, and Leonard was in the Air Corps. Fortunately, all 3 of our blue flags in Mom's window remained blue because we all got home. My brother Gerald, severely wounded in the Battle of the Bulge, retained in the military for almost 6 months after the war was over because he wasn't able to come home. Lived only a short time afterwards. But Mom never had an opportunity, fortunately and thankfully, to hang one of these flags, as Mr. and Mrs. Brown did, in their window. That's where the title, where the name, Gold Star Flag, comes from. Gold Star Mothers, Gold Star organizations. It started really in World War I. Those who were killed in World War I, a flag like this was displayed in that home. For whatever reason, our country, and we as a society, have never paid honor or respect or tribute to the families, the loved ones of that individual who made that sacrifice. I don't believe it was purposefully. I don't think we intentionally did it. But it just was never done. For about 15 years, I attempted to get a monument placed in our nation's capital that would honor Gold Star mothers. At that point in time, we were not using the title Gold Star Dads, or were we paying any respect to Gold Star families. I couldn't get my congressional people to support it. For some reason, they felt that supporting such a movement would not be wise politically, so they didn't do it. I tried to find people with lots of money who would do it. Anytime I found a guy with a lot of money, I'd hit him up. But I was not a good salesman, I guess, because I failed. I was speaking to a group in Parkersburg. They happened to be old folk, a senior citizens group. And I was talking about our responsibility as Americans. Being born here, having all the privileges that we have, we owe something back to this country some way. Whether it's voting, or serving, or assisting, whatever it is, we owe something back. And the thought went flashing through my brain, wonder if we have any Gold Star mothers in here. So I just stopped what I was talking about and said, I got a question. Do we have any Gold Star mothers in the group? Several hands went up. Because Parkersburg had a group in the Philippines when the war started, and many of them lost their lives. Some of them were in the battalion death march. So I'm going to ask the question here. Do we have any Gold Star mothers in this group? All right, I'm on a bicycle on that, and I ask the next question. Has any person here had a relative of any degree, any nature, who lost their life in the armed forces of the United States of America from the day we became a country, a free country? Have we any of those who lost? Look out, folks. Thank you very much for that. And the rest of us, thank them, because they made a sacrifice. Will you help me? That's what we find in almost every community and every group of people that we encounter, because they live in our communities. They are part of us, and yet we have never shown them any respect or tribute or honor. After speaking to that, or when speaking to that group in Parkersburg, and I asked that question, everybody left the hall finally, after all the photographs and autographs and whatever, except one man who was sitting just about that distance. He was sitting there with his head down, and I was getting my stuff together and turned around and saw him, and I said, "Sir, is there something I can do for you? Is some way I can help you?" And I got no response. So I turned around to pick up my stuff, and he came walking then toward me. He walked up within just a few feet of me, and tears were coming down his cheeks. And the only thing he said to me was, "Dads cry too." I asked him if he would sit down and tell me the story. And he agreed. He was the only son, only member of his family. His mother and father only had one child, and he was it. And Mom and Dad were already gone. He and his wife only had one child, a boy. And he had enlisted into the army and had his date of reporting, and the mother died of cancer. But the boy went on to do his duty. Ended up in Afghanistan, and there gave his life for somebody he had never heard of. But he also gave it for us, because he's one of us. On the way home that day from Parkersburg, I decided we must do something in West Virginia to honor the 11,000 names. I want to repeat that number. I want you to remember 11,000 names on the Veterans Memorial on our Capitol grounds. Probably most of you have never even seen it. Up until just 2 months ago, we didn't even have a sign on the interstate that said we had a Veterans Memorial. That's how we need to do something to honor those families. And on October the 2nd, 2013, in the Donald C. Kennard Cemetery in Dunbar, West Virginia, the very first Gold Star Family Memorial was dedicated to those 11,000 families. Many of them are gone, we know that. But we thought we had done our job. We have met our obligation. We in West Virginia have done something to recognize them. But the computer and the internet got involved. Other communities around over the country also realized for the first time, hey, we've got those people living among us too. And we've never done anything in our community. And then the ball started rolling. At the end of this year, there will be 17 scattered around over the country, completed, to honor those in those communities. There's 52 other places around over the country at the very moment that are planning to construct one of those. They're forming committees and raising money and locating a location. It needs to continue growing. Certainly not for us, for them, for those who have never been recognized. Our country, I think, at least my opinion, we're probably more divided today in America than we've been maybe since the Civil War. We've never had demonstrations like we have. We've never had people saying things about other people like is going on in America. That's never happened before. Somehow we've got to come back together. And it's not going to be the congressman or the president or any group of people in authority. If we get back together, it's going to be we, the people, that get it done. You and I and all the other 330 million of us, whatever we are, it's going to be the people that brings it back. Somehow we've got to get back to having respect of each other. Love for each other instead of hate. This is the greatest country on the face of this earth. There is no question in my mind. There is none other like it. I'm going to close with some words from a maybe some of you remember a thing we had in our homes years and years ago. I know you're not quite as old as I am, but I can remember my home. We had meals together. If somebody was late, we waited. They got in trouble, but we waited. My mother would pour cups of coffee for those who drank coffee. I started drinking coffee pretty young. Poured it into a cup, the cup was sitting in the saucer. Setting in the saucer. So then we'd pick up the cup, pour the coffee in the saucer, pick up the saucer, blow across it, and then the coffee. That's the way it was done. So the title of this I'm leaving with you is, I am drinking from my saucer. I never made a fortune. And it's probably too late now. But I don't worry about that much. because I am happy anyhow. As I go along life's way, I'm reaping better than I sowed. I'm drinking from my saucer because my cup has overflowed. Haven't got a lot of riches. And sometimes the going's tough. But I've got loving ones around me, and that makes me rich enough.
Amen.
I thank God for His blessings and the mercies He's bestowed. I'm drinking from the saucer because my cup has overflowed. I remember times when things went wrong and my faith wore somewhat thin. But all at once the dark clouds parted and the sun shined through again. So Lord, help me not to gripe about the tough rows that I've hoed. I'm drinking from the saucer because my cup has overflowed. If God gives me the strength and wisdom, when the way grows deep and rough, I'll not ask for other blessings. I'm already blessed enough. And may I never be too busy. Could I repeat that? May I never be too busy to help others with their loads. Then I'll keep drinking from the saucer because my cup has overflowed. Thank you very much.
I don't know how to respond to that except say, wow. Thank you so much, sir. It was a privilege.